Peeling back the layers with Miss Ebony. Uh-huh. We peeling back the layers with Miss Ebony. You ready? The layers effect. 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 We peeling back the layers.
Welcome to the Layers Effect with your girl, Miss Ebony. It has been a long time, you all, okay? It has been quite some time, right? And we're not ready to come back full, season 3 is coming up next month. However, tonight I wanted to personally do a special edition because I get the opportunity to interview one of my good girlfriends over 20 years of friendship. If you all have been following me over in Layers of That or Chat and Chew, then you know we have been promoting an upcoming show that launches January the 24th. Okay, Circle of Peace. But let's get into it. Wait no further. Welcome, my good girlfriend, Minister LaTisha Watson.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. Look, so you are Minister LaTisha Watson, but when you have the relationship that I have for over 20 years, you can just call her Tisha, right? But before we even really get into tonight, I just have to say I'm excited and I'm so honored because you chose me, Miss Ebony, to do your interview tonight. You know what I mean? I'm really excited about your upcoming show. And I gotta say this really quickly. Thank you for joining us, everyone. You are streaming over here on YouTube. So while you're here, go ahead, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification button, okay? And go look. This is live. So go ahead and share this link right now with your friends because we got an awesome, dope show for you tonight, okay? So, I can introduce you because I know almost everything about you, right? But you know what? I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell my viewers and my audience tonight a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Tisha, a.k.a. Minister LaTisha Watson. I've been in ministry now. It's been over 10 years.
Yeah.
Currently, I am married to a wonderful husband, Daniel. But I'm also an author. I've written 2 books. My most recent book, 3 Ring Circus, is out. Both books can be purchased on Amazon. And I have a nonprofit, Moving Mountains Ministries, where we advocate and we provide assistance for victims of domestic and sexual violence.
Wow, that is so awesome. So listen, you all, she will give you more information because we want, and look, y'all know about me, I'm about support, okay? So we need everybody to go on Amazon and buy and purchase those books, right?
Yep.
So, Tisha, tell us, how did you even come up with the idea? Because I remember when you contacted my husband, who's the producer of and owner, CEO of Worldwide Entertainment Media Group. But I remember, you didn't do it when we hung, Keisha and I and we hang out. You didn't do it like that. You know what I mean? You just hit us with a text and was like, listen, I think I want my own show. So tell us, how did you even come up with the idea of starting your own show?
Yeah. So the Circle of Peace actually started, another friend of mine, Minister Elaine Prelude, the both of us had started a domestic violence ministry at our church.
Okay.
And we wanted to do this support group. And the name, the Circle of Peace, was supposed to be for this particular support group. Actually tried to, go into, there was a particular domestic violence shelter that I wanted to just test it to see, if it was going to work or not. It didn't come through. And then fast forward, last year I was able to do the morning motivations for the friendship lottery. So big up Tracy and Keisha, the other part of Chat and Chew. And that kind of like really inspired me. And I saw how effective ministry could be even through the internet. And so, how about we do the circle of peace?
Yeah.
And that's how it came about.
Yeah. And it's so needed. Later on, during this show, you of course tell the viewers, what they can expect. Before we even do that though, tell us about Tisha. Walk us through the journey. You and I both know that, and we learned over the years that our childhood has a lot to do of who we are today, right? Our makeup, right? Of who we are today, how we interact with people, how we deal and interact in our relationships, all relationships, you know what I mean? So walk us through start with childhood. Walk us through your journey of life.
Yeah. So I do want to give this disclaimer that, my mother, I call her the OG. We got a text group, me and my sister, and she's OG Sherry.
Okay.
Like literally like my mom, like when I tell you that she went through it, she went through it.
Yeah.
And she was a single mother for the majority of it. And she did whatever needed to be done for me and, my siblings.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that, when you say like your parents did the best that they could,
yeah.
and you get to the adult stage and you have your own children and you go your own stuff.
Yeah.
You legit, like, I'm giving you everything that I have, that I have.
Yeah.
So, and my mom, like, she did that. But it was difficult, growing up. Like I said, my mom was a single parent for the majority of it. My brother and my sister's dad had issues with drug addiction. And so that made things like very chaotic. And as the oldest, and if there's anyone else who may be the oldest sibling, we experience things that the younger siblings don't experience. And there's actually like quite a big age gap between me and my younger siblings. It's like 7 years between the first batch. There's another one. But between that first batch, it's like 7 years. So when my mom was going through all of that stuff, unfortunately, I had to leave my childhood behind because my mom needed me to step up and be responsible and help her out. So all of this stuff is going on, moved around a lot, and it was crazy. It really was crazy. And I want to say that, like, during that period, I became unsafe.
Okay.
I did feelings of just not being safe. It was so much police moving around, it wasn't stable at all. My mom did the best that she could, but it is what it is. And so that feeling of like not being safe, that feeling of being out of control, when you have things happening to you in your life that you have no say so over, you literally have to flow with it. And back in the day, there was, what goes on in this house stays in this house. So it wasn't like I really could, tell somebody that, things were, going on. I will say that growing up, I had my grandmother, Lois Macmillan, who passed. And I had my aunts, my Aunt Gail and my Aunt Vicky, who kind of like swooped in and they became like surrogate mothers. So where my mom wasn't able to, step in because there are 2 other kids, my aunts, my grandma, my family, like they all swooped in to ensure that like I stayed on the right path, because honestly, I could have been a statistic. Real talk. My life really honestly could have went a completely different way, but thank God I had angels to, make sure that I was on, the right course. So fast forward, feelings of, not safe, and, all of this. So at the age of 12, I met my first husband. And so, we were kids, we went to the same church. We hung out in the same friend group, and some of them might be on the line now. There are people who know what a body's So, we had the same friend group, and, that was, my first love and head over heels. My parents were absolutely like, no, not him. And I think because of their pushback, it made me push even harder, like,
Okay.
why not him? I love him and all this other crazy mess. So that went on for shucks. Maybe I was about 16 or 17,
Okay.
sneaking around and doing, whatever with him. So I graduate high school, and then I get to Virginia State where I meet you.
B. X.
Akita,
You.
and
Okay.
and the other crew. So college for me, because I grew up in a very strict, my mother remarried, and my stepfather, Gilbert, I call him Blackie. But he stepped in and he gave stability, and he also gave us you going to church.
Mm-hmm.
We doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in a very strict Christian household, where I wasn't allowed to do much. I mean, if anything. So when I got to college, it was on. It was on. And so I wasn't focused. I was interested more in partying and doing this and doing that, ripping and running, than I was going to class. Like, girl, you got all these loans. Going, like, it was a trip. And so I ended up leaving school. I think I left after sophomore year. I left, and then I moved in with my biological father in Richmond, and I started going to community college. I started going to community college, and then I was also working 2 jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, because how I'm about dressing, and I need to get my hair done and all that stuff. So while in Richmond, I met a guy, and we were engaged for a bit. And this is when things kind of like took a turn for me. So this particular guy, the first time I was ever involved in an abusive relationship, I was probably 19 or 20.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people know that my former roommate, Keena, she was there, for it, but beyond many other people, they really didn't know that. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't think it was abuse. And it's so funny because I'm attracted to a certain type of guy.
Yes, you are.
And sometimes like you'll see like movies, you'll see videos with like this rough and tough guy, and he'll have his woman, and he kind of like and you kind of think that this type of behavior like is acceptable. Like if he's not in my face and all of that, then it ain't real. And not only that, but I was talking to my aunt about this. Like, when we're growing up, we're told that if a boy hits you, if he calls you names, he likes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're teenager or young adult, and you then find yourself involved in like a situation where your boyfriend, your fiance, or whoever, like he's putting his hands on you, like it doesn't like really register, because it didn't register to me that, oh shoot, girl, like you need to get out of this, like this is crazy. No, the first time he hit me, like I stayed. I stayed. And I did not leave him until we got into like this really crazy fight. And he actually like, climbed on top of me, and like he was like strangling me, like he was choking me out. I was going in and out of consciousness. And I was like, God, please, because I felt myself like drifting, and I was like, God, please help. And so I found something, like there was something laying on the ground, and I like hit him over the head. It was crazy, but for me, that was when it was like, okay, look, I'm done. So at this particular time, my first husband, boyfriend, whatever you want to say, he comes back into the picture. I want to say this: I had no business being in a relationship with him or anybody because I had low self-esteem. Um, I had my own baggage that I was carrying around. I, I honestly, I really should have took time out just to get that healing that I needed, but I didn't. And then I had this, this man that, I had grew up with and whatnot. And we had this, there was a familiarity there. There was a comfortable, and he made me feel safe. Because when we were younger, like, we would talk about our childhoods. We would talk about what the future would look like and all of this stuff like that. So I felt, safe. He had his own stuff too. And so literally it was two broken people looking at each other like, well, you're going to make me whole, and him, you're going to make me whole. And it should have honestly never happened. There were red flags all over the place. Things were okay for about maybe a month or two. But the first time he hit me, I used to wait tables at TGI Fridays, and I used to work like double. So I would afternoon, lunch, and when I would close on the weekends, like TGIF, like with 1, 2 o'clock, like the one in Richmond was jumping. So I would come home like late. And so this particular evening, I came home. He wanted to be intimate, and I was like, nah, I'm tired. He thought I was cheating on him. And out of nowhere, boom. And climbs on top of me. He's going to town. My roommate actually had to like bust in the room to like get off of me. And after that, we're going at it, back and forth, back and forth. The crazy part is that was Saturday night. At this particular time, he and I are both going to the same church. I'm singing in the choir. He's the minister of music, and crazy, but like we pulled that, like the Ike and Tina, like after they had gotten to that fight in that limo, and then they go try to straighten up when they go to we showed up the next day to church. I had makeup to cover up, whatever. He had on like a shirt with a high collar because he had like scratches and everything like that. It's crazy because my mom, that was actually her first time visiting that particular church where we were. And like, I had no idea that she was going to be there, and then like when we see her, I'm like, oh shoot, like that's my mom. But we carried on like it was nothing. So
let me ask you something. So what age were you at that point when he came back into your life and you all started dating? What age are we at now?
I was about 21.
21. Okay. And so we're still talking about dating. You still haven't even made it through to, down the altar yet. You know what I mean? So I'm asking this because, we are friends. And during that time period, we both can say you dealt with that alone. You didn't share that with the crew, you know what I mean? Not at that particular time, you know what I mean? At that particular time, it looked like the perfect relationship, the perfect couple, So before you go on down to like the marriage, what was it like dealing with that, especially minister of music? He has a position. You were on the praise team. You had a position, in church, and then you're very close with your family, both families. So what was that like? You know what I mean?
It was very lonely. I felt like I had to protect him. So I couldn't tell anybody, what was, really, going on. I mean, this is somebody I knew since I was 12. Shared things with me, secrets and, and all of that. Literally, like, now I see that, like, he was hurting. Granted, there were other ways that he could have went about it, but that's how I was looking at it. Like, oh, it's my fault. Maybe if I did this, maybe if I did that. And literally, like every Sunday, like I had to wear a mask. Every time I walked up in that church, like I had to be somebody that I wasn't. Wow. When we would get around, family members, like I would, put on this act. And I'm not going to say like every single day he was beaten.
Right.
No.
Right.
And so that's kind of confusing because there's a cycle. When we talk about domestic violence, there is a cycle. And it's, the first it's the lovey-dovey, it's the flowers, it's all of this. And then things start to, they start to get agitated. And then that's, the hitting and all of that starts. But then they go right back to the honeymoon. And so it is so confusing because it's like, well, I mean, when we're good, we're good, and basically I was just trying to like hang in there because I really thought it was going to get better.
Right. And then you all, I'll never forget when you announced to us, your friends like, hey, I'm going to get married. We was like, ah. And like, you were the first one in the crew to get married, right?
Yeah.
But we always say, if nothing else, because in friend groups, you pick different things out. And we always said, you know what? He's going to be the first one to marry Michael. We know you committed. We knew you were really committed, So take us through that journey, because now, like the average marriage, when you get married, you have that honeymoon phase, like we just spoke about. So did it like stop and like you all were good for years, or tell us about that?
I shouldn't have gotten married, and I'm gonna say that I shouldn't have gotten married. So the push for me to get married was because I have received my calling to preach, and the pastor, the church that I was under, and as he should have. He was like, you need to get your house together. Meaning, at that time, me and, my ex-husband, like we were living together. We weren't married or nothing. We were shacking, how they used to say. We were shacking up. And so, the pastor knew, and he was like, listen, you're moving into this next level and you're going to have to get your house in order. Things between me and my ex-husband, like they weren't, no. Yeah. Like I actually was planning on leaving him even before we had gotten married. I was planning on leaving him. And then I got the call to preach. Okay, you need to get your house in order. And so that's why, we went ahead and went forward and got married. Things were not like, I remember one particular time, he was going to one of his cousin's houses for a party or something like that. We get into this huge argument, and he closed fist punched me. And like, he hit me, and, I hit the ground or whatever like that. And then one of the neighbors, they called the police. So the police, they come. And I'm in the bathroom, like mouth, and I'm hiding. And, the police officer was like, ma'am, we need to talk to you. A call had been placed. So I come out, try to clean myself up. And the look on the police officer's face, like I still remember that look, like to this day. Like it was just this, like he saw his daughter. Like in me. And so he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And, he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, and whatever like that. So, he said, if anything comes up, please. So they leave. So my ex-husband was like, well, I'm about to go to the party. He leaves me behind. And at this time, his 2 children were living with us. So he leaves me, he goes to the party. I have the 2 boys. And when he punched me, blood flew on the wall. So I'm cleaning the blood, off of the wall with these 2 kids. And he ran out, to go to a party. And then you come back and, oh, I love you, and, stuff like that. So even in ministry, it was still happening. Like nothing, changed. So I want to say about 2010, things kind of came to a head, and meaning that on top of the abuse, he was cheating. And there was a situation where I had found a particular number in his phone that he had been calling just way too much. And me, private eye investigator, I go call the number like, like, who is this?
Yeah.
And so the girl was like, well, do you really want to know? So this whole, he comes snatch. There was this whole thing. So once again, I was like, you know what? I'm good. Because at this particular time, one of my brothers, TJ, was diagnosed with cancer. So I am being the big sister, and I am taking care of my brother. I'm going with him to his doctor's appointments, and trying to help my mom out, alternating, going over to make sure that because he had his own apartment. So
Yeah.
I say that during that time period, I had checked out,
Mm.
as I should have.
Mhm.
My brother is going through this situation, and so to make matters worse, I'm trying to help my brother, and you out here helping
Mm.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm good. And so he was like, no, let's work through this. So we actually went to couples counseling. Um, so the couples counseling with our pastor and our first lady at the time. And I will say this, and I've had tons of discussions about this. I feel a way when, and I'm gonna say it the best way I can, but I feel a way when clergy sometimes steps into that role of
Mhm.
counseling. And I feel like if you do not have that qualification, meaning you actually went to training, you got to
Yeah.
do in this, you're qualified to do this, that there are certain situations where you are going to have to refer your parishioners to outside help.
Right.
My situation was one of those, we should have got a referral.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of times what happens with abusers is that they, even though the person that is getting abused is mom, they're not saying anything. The abuser takes this opportunity to go and spread lies and rumors,
Mhm.
because when it comes out, they want the victim to look like, oh, So
Mhm.
by the time we go to our pastor's house, like, even though this is supposed to be therapy, like, I'm already used to, like, zip, I don't say,
Yeah.
so we're sitting down and our pastor is like going off on me.
Mm.
Like, what? What? So we're telling the truth? Okay. So so I was like, okay, well, this is what's going on. My ex-husband stood up and he went off on me. He was like, I'm done with this. You can stay here since you want to tell it. Like, he went off. The pastor and co-pastor had to cool him down. They saw like what I was dealing with, and then they were like, still see us in church on Sunday, still preaching, he's still playing, everything like that. He and I had actually got into like a physical altercation because I messed up his shirts in the washing machine and
Mm.
went to choke me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fed up. So I took the closest thing next to me, which was a lamp, and I used that to my defense.
Mhm.
So he goes and he takes the kids and he goes to our pastor's house.
Mm.
I get a phone call from my first lady. Tisha, what happened? And so I tell her, and she tells me, well, you know how he is about his clothes.
Oh my goodness.
So I told her, well, since you believe him or whatever, how about you
Right.
keep, like, there was no support. And even with them having this knowledge,
Mhm.
nothing happened.
Yeah.
Still went on
Hey,
as you.
I want to say something too. I can't speak for all abusers, but one thing that was in this particular situation, um, you can't see it. You know what I mean? They don't show face. Um, he was always the life of the party, always sweet, always helping, always just, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure if he was like that, the average abuser, you cannot, unless someone honestly tells you, you
Mhm.
don't, because they could be the most loving person to everyone else. Like, if we be honest, he was the one that everyone, when is he coming? Is he here? You know what I mean? Like, whether it was in the church, whether it was when you came to the functions,
Mhm.
he was one that everyone loved. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because he didn't show that characteristic. You know what I mean? And I remember over the years, you sitting and you just allowing him to be the life of the party, and everyone loved on him, and you would play your part of the
Yeah.
wife of like, yeah, and you would praise him, and no one knew that these things were going on. So I'm sure that if this happened in your situation, that just imagine people across the world
Yeah.
in the grocery store with, you know what I'm saying? And they look so, and one thing, you all were very affectionate, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, get a room, like, you all very affectionate. It just looked like the perfect couple is what I'm saying, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that's the look when you see other people in the world, you just don't know what people are going through, you know what I mean? So take us to, so you all did ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the church knew you all. Here you are thinking this is a safe place where your first lady, even if you can't talk, I can talk to the first lady, and then she says this to you. What
Right.
was the point in the transition? Did you continue to stay at the church? Like, take us there.
So I want to say this. So what people saw outwardly, me honoring him, because if I stepped out of line,
Mm-hmm.
I would get in trouble.
Mm.
So what people see now, as far as like my personality and all of that, like you can account to this. There was a period where this light didn't shine that bright.
Yeah.
My ex-husband had to be here. Like he had to be out front, and I had to be the one to kind of like be in the background. So when I actually started preaching,
Mm-hmm.
the roles reversed. And that's when things actually got worse for me at home, because now he feels like I'm competing for this spotlight that honestly I didn't even want in the first place. Like anybody who is preaching, the for real ones, they will tell you when they got the call, they were like, nope. Nobody who does this actually is like this. Oh, so you're mad at me about something that I didn't even want to do in the first place. And so it was just crazy. So I actually, my Aunt Gail and my Uncle Wes, hey y'all, they actually started they had started their own church.
Mm-hmm.
And their church was on Saturday, but I was still kind of sort of going to my own church. At this particular time, I actually started to I was sneaking off and going to GBC.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on purpose on Sunday mornings. So I could not go to my actual church, but I could still go to GBC.
Okay.
At this particular time, I was just, I was going through, we already know what was happening, and I needed something. So I'm sneaking off. So anyway, my Aunt Gail and my Uncle Wes, they have their church on Saturday. So I talked to my pastor about it, my then pastor, and for whatever reason, they felt like I was like doing the worst thing ever.
Mm-mm.
I actually got sat down.
Mm.
Yeah, they took my.
So explain to the viewers what that means. What does that set down?
When you get set, so getting set down in the African American church, because I don't know they do it anywhere else. So when they sit you down, basically, if you are in some type of position in the church, and if you have done something, now typically, if you have done something morally wrong,
Right.
then they will sit you down, meaning you can't minister, you can't sing, you can't, like you're gonna have to chill out and sit down. um and so, but my situation wasn't this. All I was doing was helping my aunt and uncle start up their church on a Saturday.
Mm.
Their church, my regular church service was on a Sunday, and so with the two, and so they took my license from me. So in the African American culture, and I don't know if they do it in any other, but I'm just going to speak. So in order to be able to preach and all, you have to be licensed by someone, your pastor or whoever else. Like you cannot just go online, and nothing against anybody that's done this, but you literally cannot just
sorry. Yeah. You playing with
take one of them little quick, no sugar.
no.
Uh, you like there's a process to all of this. So so them taking my license from me, I'm set down.
Mm.
Do anything. If I try to, like, literally, I was blackballed. Like, I can't go anywhere. I can't sing. I can't do anything because they took my license from me. However, there's always a ram in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
So my aunt and uncle were like, well, listen, that's all right. They took that one. We're gonna give you another one.
Mm-hmm.
So my aunt and uncle, they actually relicensed me. But in that period, I can say this, that I learned that what I do for God, I do it regardless if I have a piece of paper or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because I held, like, I went through a depression.
Yeah.
When they took my license from me, because I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I had to learn that what I do, that gift, whatever it is, like, it is, I don't need that paper. That paper doesn't define me.
Yeah. Let
So
me ask you something. Speaking of depression, right? You are a woman of God. So, like, we're not talking about someone that went through this situation. You don't even know God exists. You had a close, intimate relationship with God. What was that like, knowing that you had this relationship and was going through all of this and felt like that, I can't even go to my pastor, I can't go to the first lady. Why is this happening to me? What was that like? And I'm asking this because it's so important, whether it's domestic violence or whatever we go through in life. How were you able to stay on track? And I'm asking this because you were still, throughout these years, anybody know you were still a woman of God. You weren't out here getting drunk. You didn't turn to drugs. You didn't turn to another man. You still, in the midst of all of that you were going through in your relationship, you were still mom. You know what I mean? You were still raising those boys. You were still wife. How did you do that? Like, did you at some point in your life get frustrated with God? Like, tell us about that piece.
so to be honest with you, I was angry with God
Okay.
for a very long time. I want to say up until maybe 5 years ago.
Mm.
Like, I was pissed off at God. It was to the point where I was like, look, I'm not doing this no more. Because if you can understand, like, I'm going through all of this stuff in my marriage. My brother
Yeah.
passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. There was nothing in the Bible
Mm.
that prepared me for that. There was no Sunday school lesson. There was no Sunday sermon. There was nothing to prepare me for, any of that. And you have to understand something. Like, when you give God your yes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you're preaching, or
Right.
like, if it's because ministry, it comes in all forms. It could
Yeah.
be like cooking, like that could be your ministry.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, when you give God your yes, listen, your yes is going to be tested.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't and when they hand you the license, sometimes they don't tell you that. They don't tell you what's going to come after you say, yes. So I'm going through pure hell. I remember one time, my brother was in the hospital. This is probably like around, when he's, close to passing. And I had to take him to the emergency room. And when I was around him, I would, always have a brave face, and so I'm down. I go to my car to leave for the night, and I just break down,
Mm.
and I'm literally yelling at God,
Mm.
fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you say you're a healer. You're this. Look, I go to church. I do what I'm supposed to do, and like, you can't do this. And I know if somebody was in that parking lot.
I was like, should I call 911?
I know they were like, but that's where I was.
Yeah.
I was so angry, and I wanted to check out. I was in church, and but talking about depression. I was in church having suicidal thoughts.
Mm.
I would,
Silently.
yeah. The only person that knew exactly where I was mentally was my Aunt Gail.
Okay.
He was the only one who knew because I didn't want to put it on my mama.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to put that on her. I didn't want to put it on y'all, like because it was there. So I would have to go to work at like 9 o'clock in the morning, but I would get up by 6 because it took me that long to pull myself together because I would cry from the time that I woke up to the time that okay, let me pull myself together. And there was one particular day, and I'm kind of fast forwarding, but there was one particular day where I could not get out of bed. And see, here's the thing: I had functioning depression because I didn't look like what I saw on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was depressed,
Right.
but depression can be you forgetting things that like you normally should like know how to do. I was making so many crazy mistakes at work, like things that usually have brought me joy didn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
It was like I said, I was having my prayer to God was if you decided to not wake me up, I'm okay. And that was a nightly prayer.
Yeah.
So one day I woke up and I could not get out of bed for nothing. I mean, I'm crying, and I'm trying to like muster up, and I call my Aunt Gail and I'm like, look, I gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because this is too much. And she, gave me a place. So you can be in ministry. You can be like we're human beings, and I think people forget that. And I want to say I forgot that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like me being minister at that time, Giles, but even now being minister Watson, it interferes with me being able to process things like I need to process things. Because for example, when my brother passed away, his funeral was on a Saturday. I had already been scheduled to preach at another church on Tuesday. I think I told them people, no, I cannot be there. No, I showed up and just buried my brother because I thought I had to show up. So I had people coming to me who were telling me, oh, how strong I was, and oh, you inspire me, and they had no idea that I cried every single time I got in my car on the way to work, and when it was time for me to come home, I didn't tell anybody that, and I didn't think that I could tell anybody that I was struggling.
Yeah. So through all of that, right, you all that are viewing, you're probably like, well, that's it, right? No, there is much more to the story. In fact, there's a turn. When you think it can't get any worse, it does. I want you all to stay right there. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. Be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Layers Effect with your girl, Miss Ebony, my special guest, my good girlfriend / sister, Minister LaTisha Giles. Before we go any further, we just want to thank everyone that showed up on the live today. We see you all, family and friends. It's too many to name, but thank you. I do want to read some of the things that was mentioned in the chat really quickly. Someone said, Ebony, you're so right. He was the life of the party. So you can see it's not just my opinion. Someone said they never show it, meaning the abuser, they never show, and everyone is talking about how everyone is shocked by the first lady. And, I'm so glad you mentioned that. You didn't leave that out, because sometimes when people wear these titles, we place them so high that we forget they're human and that they can mess up and they got sin and some stuff with them as well. You know what I mean? But if you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, okay? But let's just jump right into it. So what year was it, if you can remember, when I had contacted you with some real craziness?
So let me give this.
Okay.
Because we got to set it up.
Okay.
So probably around maybe 2015, 2016, we had moved, and he started, like, one thing that I can say about him was that he was a provider.
Mm-hmm.
For someone like me who moved around a whole bunch when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That meant something to me. The fact that I could flip a light switch on and the lights were on. That stability, because it wasn't stable. But anyway, so he started to, like, not come home. And it was like bit by bit, like, he's supposed to be home at 4:30, but he shows up at 6, and then it was just like, oh, you're not coming home at all, and oh, you're not coming home all weekend. So that, like, type of things, started happening. So we had separated briefly, and then he ends up coming back, and we're like, okay, we're gonna, start anew, and we're gonna fix, whatever this is. So when he returns, on one of the nights that he had stayed over, because like I said, he was in and out. So on one of the nights that he had stayed over, I had went through his pockets, because I'm trying to figure out, like, where is he going to, because I had no clue about where he was going. So I'm checking his pockets, and I had checked his pocket, and I had pulled out a badge. It was a female's badge for where he worked at. And I asked him, like, why do you have this badge? And so he was like, oh, she had gotten fired, and I was supposed to take this down to HR. I forgot. I'm gonna do it in the morning. And the position that he had at his job at the time, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. All right. Yeah. God told me, remember that name. Now, mind you, this whole entire time that he and I had been together, he had cheated. And God not one time said anything about any of that.
Yeah.
So, but this particular one, he was like, remember that name. So I said all of that to say, we were probably good for like maybe 5 months. And I honestly don't even think it was 5 months. The spring, summertime came around, and he back out. At this point in time, God blessed me with this really good job. Now, part of the reason why I had stayed around was financially, I couldn't leave. Now, I knew I had reached out to my family, my friends. I would have gotten help, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it on my own. And financially, I couldn't afford to leave him. So I stayed and I took a lot. But at this particular time, and I want to say this is probably about maybe 2015, at this particular time, I had this really good job. So when he started tripping, we just so happened to be at the end of our lease. I said, you know what? I'm moving. I called my mom. I said, look, Mom, I got to find my own place. And I called her because I needed an accountability partner. I needed somebody to make sure that I was going to do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
So she did. She went with me to these apartment complexes. She was there, when I was, because even though I was going through pure hell, like, I'm sitting up here filling out apartment applications, and I'm scared, and I was trying to, like, talk myself out of it, but she stayed on me. So my credit was not the best. So the apartment complex that I eventually ended up moving to, I went there one Saturday that I had the kids, which was rare because he started to keep the kids from me at this particular time. So this weekend that he allowed me to have the boys, I was like, y'all stay here. I'm gonna go check this apartment complex out real quick. So I get there, and oh yeah, we got a vacancy, but we're going to need first month, and we're going to need your security deposit, because of my credit was actually first month's rent. Thank God I had this job. I said, oh, no problem. Went to the bank, which was right around the corner. Boom, got it. So I moved into this place, and I had every plan of not telling him, like, where I lived or nothing like that. But situation happened. I didn't have movers, so he ended up knowing where I lived at. And this is important when the rest of this falls into place. So I started so I started hearing bits and pieces about what he was doing on the other side, because even though we were separated, he was telling me that, we're going to work this thing out, and and ever. And so I'm trying to be this good Christian wife. I want to save my marriage, so we're going to work through this, right? So this name Keats. So I had the boys. I had the boys one weekend, and they were telling me, "Hey, telling me about this new place where they lived at." Because at this point, I had no idea where. Like, I moved out, I didn't know where he moved to. So they're telling me that they were still seeing friends they had went to school with, and I'm like, "Oh wow, he must still be like somewhere in this neighborhood. Like, if he's..." So I got her name. I went to one of my people search apps, and I found out where she lived. And I'm like, ain't nothing but like 7 minutes from me. So 4:00 in the morning, I'm driving and I'm praying, God, please don't let him be at this lady's house.
Yeah.
And I pull up, and he had like 4 cars at the time, and every last one of them cars was parked in front of this lady's house. And I knock on the door, he answers, and so, he tells me, "Oh, I'm just over here because, I needed somewhere to stay while I figured things out, yada, 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 yada." He's never telling me the truth about what's really going on. Now, you're about to say something, but I will say this. I knew, but I didn't know, because when I would ask questions, like, listen, let me tell you something about God. God has a way of giving you the information that you like, that you need.
Right.
So my Bible study lessons, like, because I was still doing my devotions, and the words that God was giving me, I'm like, God, why are you giving, what is this all about? And there was a particular Bible verse that he gave me. It was Exodus, I want to say it's 14. Please don't quote me on this, but basically it was, the enemies that you see today, you will never see again. Be still. I'm God. I'm going to fight this battle. And I know I messed it all up, but that was just paraphrasing. And so for whatever reason, the Holy Spirit was telling me, like, you need to put this down. So I had this post-it. And so I wrote that verse down. I folded it up, and I put it in my wallet. And I actually still have this particular verse, because what you are about to jump into, God was preparing me. And there was information also that I was getting on the outside that was leading up to, but he was lying. And I don't know why, for whatever reason, I chose to believe. So you go ahead.
So I was contacted on Facebook by a friend because everyone that knew Tisha, like I said, knew that her and his husband, like you would post them on Facebook, different things. So people saw this happy couple, right? And one thing about you as well is you're private. So, of course, in the midst of your separation, you're not on Facebook like it's over, anything like that. So I was contacted by a friend that was like, hey, I didn't know that LaTisha and her husband are no longer married and that he remarried. And so I'm like, what? First of all, no longer together, but remarried, And so the pictures were sent to me. So I thought long and hard in those brief minutes, because it didn't take me days, if I wanted to disclose that information to you. I know everyone's thinking, like, why wouldn't you? It's your friend. But at the same time, you have to be careful. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. We watch the news every day. You could have went and did some bodily harm to him. You could have did some bodily harm to yourself. It could have ruined us. You just don't know what could have happened, right? And so I did contact you. I forgot if it was via text or what, but I showed you the pictures. And
No.
How did I do it?
So
How did I do it?
So this particular weekend, we had this really bad snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
It was January. We had this really bad snowstorm. So I want to say that Saturday morning, I woke up. Something said he's married. Because I had, like I said, I knew, but he, was kind of denying. And his thing was, why would I leave you? And we had been together at that time, I think maybe 12 years or something like that. And then jumping.
And let's back up. We mentioned to the viewers that you all are separate. There has not been a divorce.
No divorce.
No divorce, right? So did I contact you on Facebook or?
So I'm at home. I had went to work that day. I come home. I'm in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And so you text me and you were like, Tisha, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just heard. Now I understand why you've been distant and all of that. So I'm like,
yeah, that's the part we left out because you were on a journey that really you had kind of pulled away from everyone.
Right.
Trying to figure out life for yourself, except like your Aunt Gail and your mom, because they were your confidants. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, so that is a very important piece. So because we hadn't even talked, so then that was another thing. Like, how do I tell this girl? Like,
yeah,
we hadn't really talked like that. So go ahead.
Right.
I text you.
So you text me. I was like, girl, what are you talking about? And so you were like, so and so got married, and I'm like, Kate, because we're married.
Yeah, and you said that. You texted me that. You was like, I'm sorry, you are moving in a chair.
But we're like, I'm like, we're still married. And you were like, Tisha, no. So-and-so just reached out to me. They seen blah, 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 blah. I got the pictures. I said, no, don't send me the pictures. I couldn't. So I hang up with you. I called my mama. Ma. And I'm going off. And my mama said, Tisha, don't you go do that crazy. Because she know.
Yeah.
She know me. I was like, click. We had a snowstorm, y'all. I get in my little car and I'm speeding to the house. God protects babies and fools. And I was a fool. Mm-hmm. I go to his house and I knock on the door. I eventually ended up inside the home. It was a big old thing. I leave out and I actually went to Richmond to my Aunt Gail's house. And I had adrenaline, like adrenaline was pumping because I remember people were calling me and all of that stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, Tisha, like, we heard and this adrenaline was pumping. And so the impact of what had actually happened really hadn't hit me. And it wasn't until that next day I woke up. So the question was, how did it happen? Because everybody was asking me, like, did y'all get divorced? Like, what is happening? And so we were thinking that, maybe he had filed for divorce, said he couldn't find me. The divorce got into the newspaper, and that's so that's what we were thinking. But like online, because like all of this, when you get a divorce, like all of that is like public knowledge. It's in the court database. So I'm looking and I'm like, I can't find anything. What I did find was that October of that previous year, she had legally changed her last name to his. But there was nothing else. So I'm up in my aunt's house. The adrenaline was pumping. So I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and the Holy Spirit, he's married. And that's when it hit me. Because at this particular time, we were, planning on, getting back together and all of this stuff like that. And like everything that we had been through, and I was solid the entire time. He had an out. He could have let me go. Like I was living on my own. I was, and he could have let me go, but he chose not to. And it hurt even worse that you're that selfish that you literally could care less about what happens to me. Like, I remember Tina Campbell from Mary Mary was going through like a similar situation. And when we're talking about healing, there has to be time to heal. Like when you get information or when you go through a certain situation, there has to be a space for you to absorb, process what it is, and breathe and go through it. I did not have that because literally month after month, I was being hit. Boom, boom, boom. And like Tina said, I literally wanted him hit me, give it to me all at once. So I can cry, I can do whatever I have to do, and I can be done with it. But it was unfair to this month is this month is that, this month is that, and then bam, you went and got
I mean,
married.
it was so crazy because it was something that you probably think you see in a movie, or you know what I mean? Because like and I knew it had to be a lot for you because you had, it was so out there on social media. So you were getting contacted by everyone. And then you had felt betrayed because if we be honest, you were not just close with your family, you was close with his side of family. And it's like, how do people were there at this reception, you know what I mean? And you knew nothing. You felt blindsided, you know, and I can feel that because, like you said, he could just let you go. You were done anyway. And then to think that he's trying to fight for this thing, but really not, you know what I mean? So to go through all that, and if you've been watching since the beginning, we said her first husband, right? So we're gonna speed up just a little bit, but what was the journey like? Because people need to know that there's life after that. You know what I mean? What was the journey like getting to this current husband? You know, your Prince Charming, your king. You know what I mean?
So I want to say this, that even though all of that stuff happened, I stayed. I stayed. I was scared. Like life on my own, I was scared. Financially, I had my job had like downsized. So I went from, I was making really good money and I went all the way down to making $12 an hour. My bills didn't go down. Like I had this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment that I'm paying $1,000 plus for, and everything else, and I was only making $12 an hour. I eventually, started, cleaning to, bring in supplemental income. So he was still financially taking, care of me. So it was, we had these kids, and in my mind I was like, oh, I want to give them what we didn't have. Like they would have been better off had I left. Like, listen, y'all, we got to stop this. We staying for the kids. Your kids deserve a peaceful home. They deserve to live in a safe space. They deserve to not, grow up in toxicity and negativity. But I was like thinking that a mom and a dad, if they just had that, they deserve more than that. So it was so many reasons why I say I didn't love me. I didn't love me. I'm still thinking that everything that I was and ever hoped to be was in him and all of that stuff. So I stayed for a year, a whole year, knowing that he's married to this other lady and he's literally going back and forth, back and forth. So the end for me was December of 2017. He went on this whole, I want my family back, yada, yada, yada thing. And I had went on Facebook and something told me to go search his name on Facebook. And I found a separate page. Nothing about. So on his regular page, it was me, it was the boys, and that. On this second page, it was her. And all of this situation, stuff. So I called him and I'm like, what in the world is this? And, oh, I'm going to take it down. I'm going to take it down. As soon as I get home, I'm going to take it down. So that next morning, I go check. It's not down. I call my mama. So this is around Christmas. And like I said, financially, at this point in time, I had gotten, a different job. And so I'm doing a lot of overtime, but still I'm starting to catch back up, financially. And so I called my mom and I was like, look, mom, I need a divorce, but I don't have the money. Can you please give me the money so I can go ahead and file? You don't have to give me nothing for Christmas. I'm good. I just need this money. And she was like, girl, come on, come pick this check up.
Yeah.
So I ran, well, he and we did have a conversation that day and I went off like, you're still, and for whatever reason, like my eyes all like I could see.
Wow.
And it's crazy because like all of these years, like I was just blind, but at that particular moment, it was like boom, and I could see everything so clear. So I actually went downtown and I went too late. And so they were like, well, we're going to be open tomorrow, but it's going to be half a day for the Christmas holiday. I was like, listen, you don't have to, I'm going to be here. So that next morning, as soon as they opened up, I was there. I found my paperwork. I was boom, bam, done. I out. And this was the first time in a decade and change where I felt light.
Wow.
I felt free. I was floating. The journey leading up to my husband Daniel, rough one, because I really didn't do the work.
Yeah.
Like I had gone through this traumatic situation, but because my stuff didn't look like what I saw on TV, I'm still not labeling as abuse. I'm still not, I just called it drama. It was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
So dating after that was like ridiculous because I hadn't did the work. I was still attracting the same type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get Tisha together. So I had did this fast, and it was praying for like your future spouse fast. And so in this particular fast, not only do you pray, like every day there was a prompt and a prayer, for your future spouse, but it was also a prayer for yourself. Because when you're asking God, for this person, you want to make sure that you are a whole being before he brings you, whomever, because that person is deserving of your wholeness. So that's what this whole fast was, about. So I'm doing this fast and things are starting to come up about stuff is starting to come up. Me and God had a conversation. I was at work one day and I was just talking to God. I used to walk around the building. My friend Adrian, she might be online. Like we used to walk around the building and stuff like that on our break. But this particular day I did it by myself because I just needed to talk to him. And I told him like how mad I was, how angry, I had been and all of these things. And God was like, you shut down on me. Like you allowed your anger, like, and I was still going through the motions. I was still going to church. I was still praying. But when I tell you my prayers were limited, prayers, I checked off what Christians are supposed to do, and I did no more than that. And that wasn't me. Like I became so matter of fact. And that was that's never been me. I was so black and white when I was always in the gray, color, like. And so God was like, trust me, what I'm about to do next, it's going to blow your mind. And so I'm at work, tears, ugly crying, like, God, I'm so sorry, So I was doing online dating because in person I have a nasty attitude.
That's right. Keep it real with my listeners. Keep it real, honey. That's right. Tell the truth.
I was not approachable.
Right.
So I was having trouble. So I was doing online dating. So there was this one particular app. I'm gonna go ahead because we're being transparent. So it was POF, and if anybody knows anything about POF, oh my gosh. So so I was like, you know what? Let me put my profile up. I'm gonna give it one more time. Mm-hmm. And God, if nothing good come through,
I'm coming down.
It's going down.
This is it, Lord.
I'm done. So, so I had seen my now husband's profile, and the funny thing is that like on like you see I had seen his profile like before, so many times before, but I was under the notion that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Mm-hmm. So my husband was going to message me, mm-hmm. not the other way around, but the Holy Spirit was like, send him a message. And so, like, I don't do this type of thing, but I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm shutting it down anyway at 5, so who cares? So I messaged him that morning. And so I'm at work and I'm checking, like, he ain't say nothing back, like, whatever. And so I think probably like around lunchtime, he had sent me a message. And, he was like, look, I really don't do this, texting thing. So here's my and y'all know him, like, he don't do that. So he was like,
Mr. Watson don't text.
Yeah, he don't do all that. So he was like, look, here's my number, call me. So I did. I got off work and I called him, and I think I got off work like around 4:30, and we were on the phone until about like midnight because he had to get up the next morning to go to work. What I can say about my husband Daniel is, and I'm not gonna cry, but I felt safe for real. Mm. The first time I met him, and I'm gonna tell the truth and shame the devil. So the first time we met, he lived out in Ivor. And if anybody know, like, I'm talking about like
the country.
Willacoochee. West Bubbachuck, so he was like, come out, and this is so crazy because I watch these true crime shows and like, what is you thinking, but like, whatever, I ain't got nothing else.
The Lord got me.
So he told me, he was like, so I'm like, where is Ivor? And he was like, it's close to Carrollton, and I'm familiar with Carrollton because I go to church in Carrollton. So I'm like, oh, Carrollton is just like over the bridge. Mm-hmm. So I'm driving, it's getting dark. It's now one way in, one way out. There are no lights. And so LaTisha comes out. I'm on the phone, I'm going in, And so he was like, well, do you want to stop and I can meet you? No, I'm going off. And so I finally get to his house, and I walk my nasty acting self up in there, and I'm looking around, and y'all already know how I act. Oh God. And I look over at him, and that sucker had the biggest grin on his face. And I'm like, and so I was getting ready to go, and he was like, look, let me put some gas in your tank. I'm like, no, I'm good. Look, y'all, I was on a quarter tank. I was struggling, y'all. But he was like, nah. Let me put some gas. So on the way to the gas station, he was like, tell me a bit about yourself. Like, nobody had like asked about that. And like, he was really listening to me, responding and all of that stuff. And in that car ride, that was the first time that I for real had felt safe in my entire life.
Wow.
When it was time to leave and I'm on my way home, I'm like, oh shoot, God, I done messed this up. Yeah, he's never gonna call me because I showed him Tisha. He didn't get, the clean.
Yeah.
He got me. Mm-hmm. This man called me the next day and was like, hey, I want to, take you out on a, on a real date or whatever like that. and we've been together ever since. When I tell you that Daniel has a level of patience,
Yeah.
because when you're dealing with someone who's dealt with trauma,
Yeah.
there's a certain level. Like, I thought PTSD was only for people who served in the armed forces.
Right. Mm-mm.
I didn't know that regular people have PTSD. So Daniel had to go through so many obstacles
Yeah.
because like, I was being triggered, but I didn't know like what I was being triggered by. So there were things that I should have responded at like a level 5 or 4. But for me, like, for example, my husband is loud. He talks loud. Like, that's just what he does. So when he would, like, if we were having like a, a heated discussion, of course he, and I would bawl, like I would be, and I'm like, oh, that's not, like, he's just talking to me, like he's not, doing anything else. Or, like I said, I should respond at a level 5, but everything is getting this level 10. So we were we only dated we only dated for like maybe
You
2
got
months.
me beat because Jay and I dated 6 months and got married. But no, no, no. You all dated. Was it 3?
It was 2. It was 2.
2, yeah, because he became your boyfriend at the end of September. I remember because we were on a cruise. And then next thing I know, in December, right? You got married.
We got married in December. I was like, you know what, YOLO.
Yeah.
And it was like, honestly, like like real talk. Like, I had already went through a divorce before, so like, whatever. If it don't work out, whatever, But and then we had went through the pandemic, right? Because that was December 2019, and then the pandemic hit in March of 2020, and February, March of 2020, everything gets shut down. So like, my anxiety is coming up. Like, I hadn't told this man that I had anxiety and stuff like that. So we're going through all of this, and my anxiety is showing up. This man, like, my husband does, like, sandblasting, and he does construction now, but sandblasting is very physical. He would go to work all day long, and he would come home and take me to a park to go walk. I'm not gonna cry. Because he knew, like, I had all of these anxious feelings and stuff like that. And so when I would wake up at night and I couldn't sleep, like, he would stay, knowing he had to get up early the next morning, he would stay up and he would talk to me. So when I'm going through all of these things, like, yelling and all in my reactions, I said, you know what? I need to get this together. So I finally started therapy.
Okay.
I want to say that therapy is probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. Because a lot of things were unlocked, a lot of things were exposed, things that, because I shout out my therapist, Sue. Everybody know about Sue. Like, Sue, like, because I went into therapy, and the first session, I was like, ain't nothing wrong with me.
Right. What can you tell me about me? Uh-huh.
I was just so matter of fact, with it. And so I had to do an intake survey, because she had to know what she was dealing with. So anyone who goes to therapy, that's what they're going to do. Your first conversation is going to be this intake. So I had to do this survey. My PTSD level was like, I was like a point away from her saying, you need medication.
Wow. Yeah.
But function like this for, like, I don't know how long. So I didn't know that my reactions and all of this, I didn't know that that wasn't normal. And then I took that, and then I took an anxiety. And so we already knew where my anxiety was. And so she was like, Tisha, we got work to do. So, so through therapy, I learned how to communicate, and I learned how to effectively communicate how I was feeling to my husband. So that because you have to understand, in my previous marriage, I wasn't allowed to talk. I wasn't allowed. I really felt. So I went through a period of time where I just remained, silent, and you can't do that in marriage. You gotta talk, you gotta let them know. So I was able to do that in a way that he could, oh, okay, this is what you need from me. And when I tell you, like, Daniel rocks with me when, in my ministry, babe, what you need. When it was time for me to set up, my nonprofit, because I had a lot of, fear.
Yeah.
I wasn't as gun ho as I should have been, and Daniel will be right there, like, nah, you need to go ahead and do this. How much you need, because I would be like, oh, well, it costs this much. Oh, okay, huh? And because I'm not, and he has been the bright light
Mm.
in all of this.
Yeah. And I'll say this, when you look at your life, like all of us and those of you who are viewing, you ask yourself, why am I going through this? Or why, even when you overcome it, why did I have to go through that? You know what I mean? And I'm a strong believer everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? Because truthfully, how can you speak to someone about something you never experienced? You know what I mean? That's like somebody trying to tell you how to lose weight and you ain't lost. You know what I mean? And so I really feel like going through all of that, even when you didn't see the end, it's just so like, and I don't want to get emotional, but God knew all this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you praying and you fasted for what shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? And God kept you. And then to go through all of that throughout all those years and then get to a Daniel. You know what I mean? I remember when we first met him, I was like, oh my God, like, because I like being real, like both of us, we are not easy to handle. So
right.
You know what I mean? But, just seeing how he was able to really handle you, you know what I mean? And really be by your side. And he doesn't mind you being in the forefront. Just like this. When we came together and you met with the producer, we came together and everything about you want to do your show. Your husband was on the meeting and he was like, all right. I mean, he answered the questions that need to be, asked, and he supports you in everything. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's the good thing. And I'm so glad that you were open to doing this, because I feel like this needed to happen before you come launching this show, interviewing all these other people. You put yourself, you open yourself up to the world, because this on YouTube. Anybody can find, you know what I mean? Anybody can see this.
Right.
And so I'm just really excited because you went through all of that, but you went through, and you know yourself, you went through it for a reason. You're going to reach so many others, you know what I mean, that may even still be in it, you know what I mean? And I'm happy that I was, you see it on TV, but to actually know someone. And what I've learned from your situation is, in the future, when it comes around, to be more of a support system, because like, just, not trying to put myself out there, but one of the things I can be true to myself was when you were going through and you open up, sometimes people don't need to hear, get out. Sometimes people just need a listening ear. You know what I mean? So I'm really, really excited about Circle of Peace coming around. And I'm so happy you were brave enough to do this right here, you know what I mean, in front of the world, you know what I mean? So, quickly and briefly, we don't give them too much, tell the viewers what they can look forward to seeing on your show.
Right. So I will add this. When I was going through all of that stuff, God told me, you were married to a fool, but I'm going to bless you with a king.
Write that down. Yeah, write that
down. It's an actual Bible verse. It's Daniel and Abigail. So y'all it's a scripture passage. So look that up, and it's the whole story. So that's what it was, and I held on to that. But Circle of Peace is Moving Mountains Ministries is my give back. God gave me a mountain so that I could show other people that it could be moved. I didn't know that then, but I know now because I survived it all. So the Circle of Peace is a portion of Moving Mountains, and we're going to have everyday people like you and me, who have gone through traumatic situations and then came out on the other end with a testimony. And we just want to create a safe space where people can come, sit, listen, share, because what I'm about is healing, moving forward, and giving God glory all the way through.
Yeah, it's unique. I'm really excited about it. I know the CEO is excited because it's something that's needed, because as we know, people go through silently, you know what I mean? And yeah, you see it on TV, but you like, especially like with a lot of preaching, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to see everyday people like this, I was this, I went through that,
Right.
but look at me now. So I'm really excited about that piece. I do want to open the floor for a couple of questions before we close out. Any questions from anyone that's viewing in that they would like to ask Minister LaTisha Watson? Let me get that last name right, because you had the other last name for so long, Watson. Any questions at all? But I will read while we're waiting for the question. I do want to read some of the feedback in the chat. I love my Tisha. I'm so proud of who and where you are and where you are going. Yes, that's really, really good. Someone else said, God sent the right one to you. Yes. Someone said very much needed. And yet, and they're probably speaking to us in this program, because when you sat down with the CEO, what was his question? What's going to set you apart? What's going to be different about your show? You know what I mean? And that's what I like. You didn't go to him and say, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you didn't say, I'm going to email somebody famous and see. No, you want everyday people, you know what I'm saying, that have went through something in life. Yes, let's talk about that. When and what the date is for your first talk show. Yes. So her launch date is everybody write this down, okay? January the 24th. She will be streaming her show right here on YouTube. Okay. One of the best ways to keep up with what's going on is tell them how they can find you on Facebook.
So on
Facebook ministry page.
Yeah, I do have. So of course I have my regular Facebook page, but I also have a Moving Mountains Ministries Facebook page. I also have an Instagram. And I think my Instagram is Moving Mountains. I'm really not good with Instagram right now. Of course, I have my email, moving_mountains_ministries@yahoo.com. So you can hit me, follow me, and all that information will be there.
Someone said, oh, this is a good question. How can someone be a part of Moving Mountains Ministry or Circle of Peace?
Yeah, so honestly, all you have to do is just contact me. I think the producer is going to put the Circle of Peace email somewhere down in the stream. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you have a story to tell, listen, I'm all ears, and I am all for giving the floor for testimonies to go forth, because that's what the word says, that the enemy, that he is defeated by the blood of the Lamb and our testimony. So that's how we defeat the enemy with, So, but if you want to support or be a part of Moving Mountains Ministries, please contact me. There is so much that I want to do, but I understand that I'm only one person.
Yeah.
So just reach out to me.
That's good. I want to read this. It's amazing that LaTisha is in a better place and is happy. Some people don't come back from these type of situations. Thank you for your voice. That was really, really good. Someone else said, thank you for sharing your story. Salute to you. We even had a man up here earlier and was like, salute to you, Queen, for being so strong. Someone said, I am so proud of you, Tisha. Keep up the amazing work. Yes, and I am so proud. And you all, listen, this is just the beginning. Again, the launch is January the 24th. It will be live stream right here on YouTube. I'm going to say Facebook, on YouTube, right? How can you donate? Good question. Yes. And I'm so glad you asked that, because with Moving Mountains Ministries, LaTisha plans on doing a lot of community work. She already has some things planned for 2023. So donations definitely is needed. If you want to volunteer, that's definitely needed. So how can they donate? That's a good question.
So I'm going to post that information.
We'll do that.
I'm getting, all of that together. I want to make sure that legally everything is done correctly. But I want to just quickly say, in reference to, I think it was Pinky, uh, everybody don't make it out.
Yeah.
So if someone is watching,
Yeah.
if you are going through this, if you know someone who is going through a domestic violence situation, we showed the number, the hotline that you can call. But I want to say, like, please don't stay.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have stayed as long as I did. You know that there is help for you. Don't feel like, because I thought like nobody else would want me, because that's what was beating into my head. Like nobody else is gonna want you, and all of those things like that. That's a lie. The devil is a lie.
Yeah.
Like you.
Someone else said, "Oh, that's a good question. What's the name of your book on Amazon?" Yes, we need y'all to go get that today.
So the book, everything is in the book, and it's Three Ring Circus. Three Ring.
Three Ring Circus. And you think this is something in the book? She goes in even more detail of that everyday life. So get that book. It's definitely a good read. Yeah. So thank you again. I gotta first, before I can thank the viewers, thank you again, Tisha, for choosing to do it on my platform, because there are a lot of shows out here, you know what I mean? And so I really am honored, you know what I mean? I was really excited. I was like, wow. And then when we talked about what you're gonna be discussing, you have to be a brave soul, And I'm gonna tell you, thank you for not being selfish and keeping this testimony to yourself, because I feel like we go through, when God bring you out of something, it's for us to give him the glory and the credit. You know what I mean? Why hold that in? There's so many people, especially in our culture, they are ashamed and they don't want to share with others, but you were brave enough. And it just showed that you were also delivered, because when you're delivered, you can openly talk about it. Someone said, what are the names of your other books?
So the first book that I wrote is called Jesus, He Has Kids.
Okay.
It's a book in reference to me not having any children and dating a man who was a package deal. So just my thoughts and things that I experienced during that particular situation. So that's on Amazon too.
I'm gonna put this in the. I'm gonna drop it. So everyone, of course, this information will be dropped also in the Layers of Fat. We're gonna post in the chat and chill the Layers of Fat, because we are all under Worldwide Entertainment Media Group anyway. You know what I mean? From your mommy, thank you for sharing, baby girl. Oh my goodness. Before I give my shout outs, Tisha, I'm gonna let you give yours. Go ahead.
So I want to first thank all of you for tuning in and watching. I thank you for all of the prayers and the kind remarks. Like, it honestly, it means so much to me. But I want to shout out my circle, the people who were with me when I was going through all of that. I know it was difficult for all of you to sit back and watch me go through, what I was going through. I know y'all wanted to come and yank me yank me up out of it. And so I just want to thank all of you, my mom, my aunts, my friends, Keisha, Ebony, Twani, Kina, all of my crew, Jessica. Like, when I tell you, I had people praying for me. They were there, and when I came up out of it, they were right there, open arms, were waiting to welcome me in. So I just want to thank all of you guys for your prayers and for sticking it out with me. Thank you so much. And to my amazing husband, I love you to the moon and back. I truly do.
Oh, we love you, Daniel. Shout out to everyone, because truthfully, you could have been doing anything tonight on this Tuesday night. I really appreciate you all, because you all know the last fact we do Wednesday night. So we threw this into the Facebook, and we promoted it, did the promos, and you all show up here tonight. The numbers were sky high. We thank you.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm so sorry. And I also want to shout out my little sisters that I picked up. They're probably gonna call me auntie, and they better not. But Adrian and Courtney and my own sister Shonda. Thank y'all so much. Okay, go ahead, girl.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to forget anyone, and y'all be knocking it. Okay. So But yeah, thank you for tuning in. The Layers Effect with your girl Miss Ebony will be back next month. We'll drop that date soon. But until then, check out January. This because sometimes, Tisha, you might be wondering, why she keep saying you have to do this a lot with our folks. January the 24th. Right here on YouTube at 7:30 Eastern time, okay? And then also check out Chat and Chew. We both co-hosts. Our other co-host Keisha's up here. Chat and Chew as well. Check that out, okay? If you don't remember any of the information, you can go to Facebook, to the search bar, and put the names of the different platforms and just join those pages, okay? Again, we appreciate you all. Don't log off until the end, okay? Thank you. Good night.